Why do prospects treat your MSP like a vendor instead of a strategic partner in their business? Because whether you realize it or not, it comes down to how you sound the moment the conversation starts. Most MSPs position themselves the exact same way. We manage IT. We fix issues. We keep systems running. And while that's true, it's also the fastest way to get ignored. Because from the prospect's perspective, they've heard it all before. Every MSP says it. Every provider sounds similar. Every conversation blends together. So what happens next? You get compared. Not on impact, not on outcomes, on price. Now you're in a race you don't want to be in. Because when you sound like everyone else, you get evaluated like everyone else. And in that position, you lose control before the conversation even begins. Let's take it a step further. When you lead with what you do, you're forcing the prospect to figure out why it matters. And most of the time, they don't. They hear features, they hear services, they hear technical language, but they don't feel urgency. They don't see risk. They don't connect IT to real business impact. So the conversation stays shallow. And when the conversation stays shallow, decisions get delayed, or worse, they start shopping. Now you're one of 3 quotes, one of 4 options, one of many conversations they're having. And at that point, you're no longer leading anything. You're being evaluated. And that's where deals start slipping, because you're trying to win on explanation instead of positioning. The MSPs that grow do this differently. They don't start with what they do. They start with what happens if the problem doesn't get fixed. They lead with impact, downtime that disrupts operations, security risks that expose the business, compliance gaps that create liability, productivity loss that compounds over time. So now the conversation changes, because now it's not about IT. It's about the business. It's about consequences. It's about what's at stake if nothing changes. And when that becomes clear, the prospect listens differently. They lean in. They engage. They start asking better questions, not about tools or services, but about outcomes, about protection, about stability, about growth. And that's where you want the conversation to live. Because in that position, you're no longer a vendor. You're a guide. You're someone who sees what they may not see. Someone who understands the risk. Someone who can help them avoid problems that cost real money. And when you show up that way, you change how decisions get made. You remove yourself from price comparisons. You move out of the commodity category and you step into a position where value becomes clear. But this shift requires discipline. You have to stop defaulting to what you do. You have to stop leading with services. You have to start leading with impact every time. Because the first few minutes of that conversation determines everything that follows. If you get positioning wrong, you spend the rest of the call trying to recover. If you get it right, everything becomes easier. The conversation flows. The problem becomes clear. The decision feels logical. So if you feel like prospects are constantly comparing you, pushing back on price, or not taking the conversation seriously, this is where to look. Not at your offering, not at your pricing, at how you're positioning yourself from the start. If you want to see how to shift that positioning in real conversations, you can take a closer look at CharTec Academy or walk through it on a call. Sometimes one change in how you open the conversation changes how the entire deal plays out. And in the next video, we're going to break down why pricing feels like the moment everything could fall apart and how to remove that pressure completely.